What I'm going to do now is introduce some idioms. Um, Idioms and expressions, they're sometimes a little complicated and they can be difficult to understand in terms of what they mean because when you read them, well, they sound like they're unconnected to what they actually mean. So for this reason, it'll be useful for us to look at some common idioms related to negotiation. Okay, the first one, a win-win deal. This is an expression, and basically this means a deal that benefits both sides and makes both sides happy. For example, we are really pleased with the negotiations. We reached a win-win deal. Next one, give and take. This describes compromise between both sides in a negotiation. Maybe one side gives something, the other side takes it, and that process repeats back and forth, back and forth. Um, so we want a raise, but we know that we will need to give something in return. If you give us a raise, what will you take for it? That's just a simple example. The next idiom or expression here we're going to look at is back and forth. And as you may have heard, I just used this just talking about give and take. So this describes action or discussion coming from one side and then returning to the other. So kind of the flow between two parties within a negotiation, for example. The manager raised his concern, and then the coworkers raised theirs. The back and forth negotiation continued for days. If you're having trouble understanding this one, you can think about like maybe a game of tennis. The ball goes back and forth between the two sides, so they're responding to each other. Okay, there's a flow back and forth, back and forth. Next, draw a line in the sand. This is to set a limit or a point beyond which you will not go or you will not compromise. So you're being very firm or strong about something, some some limit on what you will do. For example, we won't accept the deal for less than $150 per unit. That's our line in the sand. So this person is explaining to someone, you know, this is the limit. This is as low as they will be willing to go on the price. Just a few more now. Idioms continued. Okay, stand your ground. This means to be firm on a specific point. So, as we discussed before, there's this idea of give and take, back and forth. Well, maybe on a particular item or issue, you stand your ground. You do not back down. You do not retreat. So, for example, they tried to negotiate with me about the price, but I stood my ground. I told them we could negotiate on other points. So again, this idea that someone is being very strong or firm about something. Next, drive a hard bargain. This means to be a tough and skilled negotiator. So it can mean that someone is very good at negotiating and that they are being very strong and forceful in their negotiations. Jim kept finding ways to have us lower the price and increase the delivery date. He drove a hard bargain. So again, here talking about Jim's negotiating ability. Okay, what I'd like to do now is introduce an example of negotiation. So this is a real example, and let's get started. So what I'd like you to do here is to look at these different pictures. So this picture, this picture, this picture, this picture, this one, and this one. Maybe try and think about what do you see in these pictures? What is the possible connection between these pictures? And what do you think the story is here behind these pictures? We're going to get to the story in a second, but I'd encourage you to maybe pause the video here and just think about maybe what might be going on here. Okay, I'm going to continue now for the video, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first part of a story. We'll pause, and then I'll read the second part. Okay, the deal of a lifetime. In 1965, a 90-year-old woman named Jean was living alone in Paris. She did not have any family, and she didn't have a large savings. Jean's daily expenses were higher than she liked, so she decided to place an advertisement to see if someone would be interested in making a deal with her for her apartment. It was the most valuable thing she owned. Apartments in her location in Paris were very difficult to find and very expensive. A local official named Andre saw the ad and expressed an interest. Jean and Andre met and began negotiating the terms. After a bit of back and forth, they finally came to an agreement on a win-win deal. Andre agreed to pay Jean a small amount of money each month until her death. The payment was about the same amount as 1 month's rent. Andre also agreed that Jean would live in the apartment until her death. In exchange, Jean would leave the apartment to Andre in her will. Andre and Jean were both happy. Sounds like a great deal for both parties, right? Okay. So I would invite you right now to maybe reread this story or perhaps listen to it again. It will help you just make sure that you understand the whole first part of this story. And if there are any words that you're not sure of, you can just look them up now. But I will continue with the next slide. So if you'd like to pause the video, you should pause it right here. Deal of a Lifetime, Part 2. Jean Calment was 90 years old in 1965. She lived to be 122 years old and died in 1997. She holds the world record for being the oldest person ever to have lived. Andre Raffray died in 1995. He paid money to Jean each month for 30 years. In that time, he paid her approximately twice the apartment's value. After Andre died, his family had to continue to make the payments according to the contract that Andre and Jean had negotiated. Andre's family paid Jean each month for another 2 years. When Jean was asked about the deal that Andre made with her, she said, "In life, one sometimes makes bad deals." If you could give some advice to Andre Raffray in 1965, what would you tell him to help him in his negotiations? Do you have any suggestions, maybe? What could he ask for? What should he offer in return? Remember, negotiation often requires give and take. This is a true story, and I would like you to maybe pause it here, pause the video here, maybe reread the story, just make sure you have all the key points, and when you're ready, please hit play on the video, and then we'll move on to some questions about the reading. So this is a true or false section about the reading. Again, if you would like, you can reread the reading now, but let's go through it. First, true or false? Jean was 90 years old in 1997. Number 2, Andre was satisfied immediately after making his deal. Number 3, Andre was able to move into the apartment immediately. Number 4, the most valuable financial asset Jean had was her apartment. And number 5, Andre agreed to pay interest on the monthly sum. So I would encourage you to pause the video here and try to come up with your answers to these questions. But for now, I'm going to continue with the video. Okay, the answers. So Jean was 90 years old in 1997. This is false. She was 90 years old in 1967, and she lived until 1997, and she was 122 years old. Andre was satisfied immediately after making the deal. This is true. After making his deal, he was happy with it. He figured, she's 90 years old. I probably won't have to pay her for very long. Unfortunately, Andre's happiness probably did not last very long. Number three, Andre was able to move into the apartment immediately. This is false. The contract that he negotiated allowed Jean to live there until she died. So, though Andre was paying every month, he was never able to move into that apartment. Number four, the most valuable financial asset Jean had was her apartment. This is true. It mentions in the story that she did not have significant savings and that she had one thing of great value, and that was her apartment. And number five, Andre agreed to pay interest on the monthly sum. This is false. In the text, it mentions that he took an interest in the deal, but that he only paid a specific sum that he agreed to in the contract. So he did not agree to pay interest. Okay, let's go on to some critical questions related to the reading. So again, these are kind of designed to make you think a bit more deeply about what we read. Okay, first, why do you think Andre made this deal? How would you feel if you were Andre and you made this deal? What would you do, and how would you carry yourself? Carry yourself means like how would you act? How would you, in your mind, tell yourself to behave? Maybe regardless of how you feel. So carry means like the dignity or lack of dignity that you have. And last, what do you think Jean's final comments in life? One sometimes makes bad deals. Say about her. She said it after Andre died. Why did she say this? Okay, there are no right or wrong answers here, but again, I would invite you to pause the video here, maybe write down your thoughts, go back to the reading, think about it, and yeah, really kind of reflect on the reading. Okay, let's go on to the next video section. So, what we'll do is we'll draw this one to a close, and I'll see you in the next video.